Tim, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out.
No, no problem at all. Thank you for having me.
I love the picture of you with the cat.
Yeah, he's a very famous cat. Um, he was, according to the Royal National Lifeboat Association or Institute, he was saved from the waves.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good-looking cat. It looks like an album cover for like a rock band.
Well, yeah, I mean, he could he could go down that road.
Where are
He's
you
pretty
located?
awesome. I'm in England, so
Okay.
if you look at England, look along the south coast. There's a big island called the Isle of Wight.
Okay.
Just to the northeast, you've got Portsmouth Harbour. Just on the opposite side of Portsmouth Harbour, you've got Gosport, and that's where I am.
It sounds dreamy.
It's a great place to live. I love it down here.
Yeah. So are you all like riding on the high of the monarchy and everything that's been going on?
Oh yeah, I'm a monarchist. Whichever way you look at it, break me in half. It says monarchy all the way around. I spent 44 years under the colours, man, boy, regular and reserve in the British Army. So yeah, I I,
Uh,
I took the oath of allegiance at 16 to serve Queen and country and her heirs and successors. And this is an heir. So
okay. Well,
Charles the Third's my king.
yeah. Well, and we're going to get into all that, but before we do, we've gone through quite a thing with COVID. I know you're a writer. I know it's kind of a solitary activity, but you seem like a very active guy. How did you survive that time period, and how are you doing now?
I'm doing all right now. I still drink a little bit too much, but we we can cope with that.
Yeah.
Um, what do I do? I mean, lockdown was horrendous. I retired April 2018. We went off around the Baltic on our boat. So the Baltic that summer, came back down. 2019, what did we do? I did a trip with a mate, 3,000 odd miles on a motorbike across Europe and back. Uh, 2020, when we got into lockdown, I didn't know what to do. Drinking a lot, and decided there's no future in drinking this much every day. Do something. So I revamped a skill that I used to have, which was audio recording. And I was doing ancestry, and I found my great granddad, who was a chief stoker in the Royal Navy. He lived just across in Portsmouth from where I live now, about 3 miles away. He died in 1930, and without a time machine, I couldn't go back and get his story.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, if I don't tell my story, that's going to be lost. So I started recording my life history. So 24 half an hour episodes later, I got to the end of that. I did a couple more episodes of some more in depth stuff that I did. And I thought, we're still in lockdown. What do I do now? so, so why don't I tell other people's stories? So I started getting other people on my show and get them to tell their stories, and it sort of blossomed from there really. I'm now,
Is
I don't know.
that's a really magical, it's almost an essential thing that we all need to do that we overlook. We're here to collect stories. We have great stories. I think it's such a valiant thing to be able to do that. Like for you leaving your story behind and to get other people to put their stories out. That's why we're human. That's what connects
Yeah,
us.
absolutely. I mean, people often ask me, who's my target audience? Who do I do it for? Well, my simple answer is my target audience hasn't been born yet. They say,
Yeah.
huh? Well, I'm leaving a legacy for future generations so they can look at this, what we're doing today, in 100 years' time, and know how ordinary people like us lived, what schools we went to, how we lived our lives, what work was like at this period in time, what the tech was like.
Yeah.
Um, we can't do that with ordinary people from the past.
Right.
I mean, famous people, their stories kind of told in films and stuff like that. However, but normal, ordinary people haven't got that left. So, so that's why I've decided to do what I've done, and there's 300 odd episodes now of people's lives, and I'm enjoying it. I'm having so much fun, and I
Yeah,
love talking to people.
it's wonderful. So let's go back. You had mentioned school.
Yeah,
Let's go back to the earlier part of your life. What did you want to be when you grew up? What was your dream?
up to the age of 10, I wanted to be a farmer. I was born on a farm, kind of grew up on and off on a farm. My granddad was working on the farm, and we used to go and visit him. Although we lived in the town, we used to go down there holidays and stuff like that. And I wanted to be a farmer. At the age of 10, we have something called the 11 plus, which kids at that age, they take this test to see whether they're clever enough to go something like grammar school. Well, because I didn't know at the time, but I suffer from dyslexia and I had difficulty, so I failed that miserably. Then I thought there was opportunity to go to a place called Haddam Hall, which was an agricultural boarding school where you go and you learn sort of agricultural stuff, but you do your normal studies. So I took an entrance exam for that and failed that miserably. so, so then I thought, well, I can't be a farmer, so I'll join the army. And then I nearly didn't get into the army. It was the first time you could take the test was at 14 and three quarters. So at the age of 14 and three quarters, I went over to the recruiting office in a place called St Albans. I took the test to join the army, and the recruiting sergeant, he said, "Son, if you can't read and write proper like what I does, you've got no chance of joining the army. Suggest you go and learn something and come back later." so, so that weekend, I went home and I was devastated. I thought my life's almost over. What do I do? I gave myself a long talking to. That Monday morning, I went into school and I went to every lesson. Previously, I've been bunking off. I'll go and get registered and then clear off for the day. Went to every lesson. Half of the teachers thought I was a new student. Never seen me before. So I knuckled down for about 8 months and then went back to the recruiting office with a mate. And recruiter says, "You again, is it?" He said, "Yeah. I hope you've learned something." "I have," he said. So he sat us down. He says, "Right, there's the papers. You get on and do that. I've got to pop out and do something." So my mate gave us a few of the answers, passed the test, and then I joined the army at the age of 16
Wow.
on the 5th of August 1974.
Wow. You've had quite an adventurous life. Who's been kind of a hero or a role model for you?
Me.
Yeah, I like it.
I kind of carved my own path. Um, I don't really have heroes as such. I just see an opportunity and grab it with both hands and hang on for dear life.
There
So
you
I
go.
mean, I've done some awesome things in my life. I mean, from hang gliding, motorbike racing, um, driving fast cars, shooting, skiing, playing rugby, playing American football. Yeah, I've had some wonderful opportunities, uh,
What have you
particularly at later times.
Yeah, what have you not done that you would love to do? Something that's on your list of I mean, those are pretty hardcore things. Is there anything you haven't done that you want to do?
Travel a bit more.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've done an awful lot of traveling. I love traveling. Um, I'd like to sort of have a bit of a lottery win and to be able to afford to do a bit more traveling. But I'm retired now and just living off my army pension at the moment, which is a little bit of a struggle day to day with the cost of living going up. But yeah, I live every day as though it's my last because I know that one day it will be.
yeah.
And I
So who
don't
would be
want
a
regrets.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So who would be a dream guest for you to have on your show?
Anybody. I love to talk to anybody and everybody. And I don't really have a dream guest because everybody's got their own story. I also do a live stream on a Thursday where I get guests in and we talk about everyday conversations regarding mental health. And I've had some pretty awesome people, some people that gone through some real traumas in their life, and we just have a normal conversation about uh, their problems, how they got through it, and stuff like that. And hopefully, we can through that help other people overcome what they're going through. So that's an important subject that we're trying to get everybody to talk about, make it comfortable to talk about um, subjects like death, suicide, post-traumatic stress disorder, addictions, um, uh, bereavement, and just make it an everyday conversation so people feel comfortable. And that's what we're trying to do. And if we can help somebody particularly that's struggling and maybe looking at doing something silly with their life, if we can turn them around and show that there is a way out of it, there are people that out there that will listen, and sometimes that's all it takes is somebody to use these twice as much as they use that, just to listen to somebody's problem. That's sometimes enough to turn somebody back from the brink, and that's what we're trying to do there.
So, what's been a motivator for you throughout your life? You obviously have done a lot, you've seen a lot, you were in the army, you're doing valiant work now with getting stories from people. What is the motivator for you? What gets you through each day?
Just to live every day as though it's my last. Um, I my glass is always half full to being overflowing. I've always looked on a positive. Take a negative and find a positive in it. I was watching a YouTuber earlier, and they were saying that they get lots of negative views. They get people giving them the thumbs down, and I said, well, take the positive out of that. Even though somebody doesn't like what you're doing, you're still getting a view out of it. And YouTube is all about views. so, so even though you get a dislike, at least they looked at it. And they've looked at it for more than 30 seconds, which is what YouTube really all about.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just looking for the positives in life, um, looking for opportunities. And I think that's a good way of living. And I like to treat everybody as though I'd like to be treated myself. And I think that goes a long way to living a great life.
So, speaking of a great life, let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 20-year-old version of yourself. Based on the wisdom you've gained in your life up to this point, what advice would you give your younger self?
Carry on doing what you've done. One or two things to change, obviously, but yeah, yeah. I mean, carry on your life because I was the same back then. I lived every day. I loved what I was doing. At the age of 20, I was having a great life. We'd just been posted to Berlin when I was 20, and Berlin at that time, that was 1978. The wall had come. The wall was still up. Rudolf Hess was still alive. We got to go on the British military train. We got to go over to East Berlin, and that was like going from a colour film to a black and white film. It was that stark. I mean, East Berlin was grey. We got to go to the American sector and use their PX. We got to the French sector, use their PX, cheese and wine, obviously. So, um, and it was just a great time. And then they decided that when we left there, they posted us to Londonderry in Northern Ireland for 2 years. Thanks. Go from a fantastic posting to a not quite so fantastic posting, and yeah, so we just had a great time. When I was 20, I mean that was fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would just tell myself, um, yeah, get a bit more education. I'd like
Yeah.
to go back and talk to myself at 7,
Yeah.
because the age of 7 was when I had a real problem. I was put off school And the reason I was put off school is that I was being bullied. We had a bully in the class, and I said to the old man, I said, Dad, look, I'm getting bullied at school. What should I do about it? He said, son, best thing to do is when he starts, give him a thump and make it a good, because if you don't, you're going to get hiding. You'll probably get hiding anyway, but give him a really good thump, and he'll probably leave you alone again after that. So, anyway, following day, all anybody saw was me giving him a thump, him flying back into the school pond. I get dragged off by the ear to the headmaster's office, and I got 6 of the best. Age 7, I got 6 of the best. I felt such an injustice. It put me off education. The fact that I was suffering from dyslexia at the time that didn't get sorted out until a long time later is also part of the problem. But yeah, I didn't like school after that, and that was a problem. If I could go back and talk to my 7-year-old self now, I would say, son, get as best education as you can. Be clever. Identify that you have a problem, and overcome it. And I think that's the turning point in my life at 7, where I suffered that injustice at school, and it did impede my learning a lot at that time. And when I got to secondary school, I spent more time bunking off than I did at class, which, as we saw, had that effect on my ability to get into school or get into the army almost.
Yeah.
Certainly had a detrimental effect to going into agricultural college.
Yeah.
But there you go. I mean,
Yeah.
I
So of
got
all,
in, and then I took every opportunity that I could possibly take.
yeah. So of all of the things that you've done in your life up to this point, what are you the proudest of?
Oh, loads of things. I was a hang gliding instructor for 3 years at the Army Hang Gliding Centre, which later became joint services. So it was a joint service. So I was teaching lots of guys hang gliding, which is an adventurous sport, to say the least. It takes a lot of nerve to be able to do it. Skiing, I love. I'm a telemark skier, and I competed at army level for 20 years. So I was going up against the army, the navy, the air force, and the Royal Marines, which is their sport. So yeah, I'm proud of my time competing at telemark skiing. I played a lot of rugby. I played rugby at school, and I played rugby pretty much all the way through my life. And I played my last game at the age of 56. I was hoping to play at 60, but underneath this gorgeous exterior, there's an absolute train wreck going on.
So everyone out there has a perception of you. You have all these different people in your life, family, friends, those that come on your show, but ultimately you're running the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh, I think I'm an amazing guy. I like to think that I come across as somebody that's slightly intelligent. That's why I wear glasses. Also helps me see. Um, I'm a caring person. That I'm interested in people, and I think that's what people see. I'm a warm, caring person, and hopefully I portray that. And when I'm interviewing somebody, I'm giving them 100% of my concentration. I'm listening to what they're saying, and I'm engaging with them. Hopefully, that's what they see in me.
So what's next for you? The world's been kind of opening up. We're kind of entering this post-COVID world. What are you looking forward to? Let's say we talk in 5 years. What do you want to do? What's on your radar?
Well, immediately,
Well,
I'm
yeah.
I'm going off on Sunday. I'm going off with my regiment on a battlefield study tour, and we're going to Holland, and we're going to be tracing the Operation Market Garden, which was the bridge too far, and we're going to be looking at the airborne forces part of it up to Arnhem, and we're going to be looking at 30 corps, and in particular the Lincolns, the Royal Norfolks, and the Suffolks, which are our predecessor regiments. We're combined into the 9 county regiments of the East of England, and we are the Royal Anglian Regiment. So I'm joining some regular soldiers and some retired soldiers, and we're going off on a battlefield tour next week. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the week after. I'm going to the podcast show, which is a 2-day thing in London, which is the industry coming together, and I'm hoping to meet up with the guys from Podmatch.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. Next month, I'm going away for 3 days on my motorbike, camping up in a place called Ragley Hall in Warwickshire to the Adventure Bike Riders Festival. I went last year and it was great fun. There's some great bands and stuff on. Loads of all the manufacturers are there with their adventure bikes and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to doing that. I'm looking forward to doing some filming as well, and to carry on my interviewing. I love talking to people. So that's what I'm looking at doing probably for the next few years anyway. While I'm enjoying it, I'll carry on doing it. The day I stop enjoying it is the day I'll look for something else.
Yeah. So you're an adventurous spirit, and you clearly love history. Let's say you could go back in time and see an event, see something in history. Where would you go? What would you love to see firsthand?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I'd like to go back to the 1920s, go back 100 years, post the First World War, and look at the events from the First World War to the Second World War. I'd like to look at that period in history and to see how it changed so much, and and why we got to the stage of getting into another war with the Germans.
That would be interesting. That would be very interesting. It almost seems as though we're on levels of acceleration now doing kind of the same thing.
Yeah, I think I think unfortunately it's looking more likely that we're going to be dragged into a conflict, whether it's Europe or whether it's the Far East. I mean, Taiwan and the Chinese are not looking too clever at the moment. We
Yeah.
may get dragged into that. We may get dragged in even further into the conflict in Ukraine. So,
Yeah.
and I'm too old for fighting.
Right. You got adventures to go on. Man, this has been great. You're fascinating, man. Thank you for opening up your Pandora's box. And before we get out of this digital door, tell everybody where they can find your podcast, anything related to your world. Where can they go?
Well, they can find the podcast they're on all the podcast apps, and it's titled Everyday Conversations Regarding Mental Health. That goes out on a podcast as well as on YouTube. So I interview people on YouTube, and it goes out on that and on the podcast apps. Likewise, uh, Ordinary People's Extraordinary Stories. They look at that, they'll find that the podcast, and that's also goes out as um, YouTube. So if you could look for Tim Heale 9, she'll come up with my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And then if you think yourself clever, I do a live stream awesome quiz on a Tuesday evening. And if you put in live stream awesome quiz, you'll come up with a quiz channel, and you can test yourself on many different subjects.
It's wonderful.
Her ladyship, the Duchess, she writes or compiles all the quizzes, and we kind of deliver them together. So the quizzes are a lot of fun.
Excellent. Tim, this has been great. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate your time. Best of luck with all the adventures. It's so good to see cats like you out there living the good life, man. Good work.
Absolutely. And if there's any advice that I can give to anybody out there, always take the positive out of everything. Live every day as though it's your last, because one day it will be. The last thing you want to do is turn up at the pearly gates with regrets and a body that you haven't used.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for your story. Wonderful sage advice. Best of luck. I appreciate it.
TTFN. Ta-ta for now.
Yes, sir. Cheers.